Hello, I'm Dane, and this is Dan Explains. I know the title of this video sounds like some kind of conspiracy theory, but hear me out. Artemis 2 didn't actually go to the moon. Probably not many people watched the NASA live stream the day after Artemis 2 launched, when they did what's called their Translunar injection burn, also called TLI, which is supposed to carry them to the moon. After the burn was completed, there was a comment that I think most missed. What they said was they completed their reentry burn, which is supposed to be the burn that ends the mission, not starts it. Why did they say that? And does it mean they never actually went to the moon? Let me explain. If Artemis 2's TLI burn was actually their reentry burn, does it mean they didn't go to the moon? Well, yes and no. And I'd argue probably no more than yes. The TLI burn was actually a real TLI burn, but it was also their reentry burn at the same time. So it served two purposes. It did technically put them on a journey around the moon and back, but the start of the journey was at Earth, and the destination was also on Earth. The moon just gave them an assist to get them pointed in the correct direction. The moon wasn't technically their destination in any sense of the word, even though they did loop around it. Now, I've heard some people argue the analogy that the trip was more like a trip to the fast food restaurant, where the Apollo landings were like people going to the restaurant and sitting down inside and eating, and Artemis 2 was just going through the drive-thru. But I have to disagree with that analogy. Artemis 2 had no way to stop at the drive-thru, which I'd say would be equivalent to going into lunar orbit. They simply didn't have the fuel to achieve lunar orbit, even if they wanted to. So it was more like driving past the fast food restaurant while they were looking out the window at it. I think a better analogy would be flying somewhere on a plane. Imagine someone went on a journey that took them on a plane that flew over Paris on its way to their destination. Could a person who was on that plane then claim they had visited Paris based on that flight? Hardly. They may have gotten closer to Paris than they'd ever been before, and they may have even gotten a good view of the Eiffel Tower from their window seat. But that doesn't mean they actually visited Paris. Artemis 2 was almost exactly the same. The astronauts got a good close look at the moon, but they were literally just passing by on their way from Cape Canaveral to the Pacific Ocean. So the journey was just technically the most expensive trip in history, from the Cape in Florida to a boat in the Pacific Ocean, with a sightseeing detour around the moon on the way. Although, when it comes to spaceflight terms, they're often applied a little more loosely. Oftentimes, a spacecraft is considered to have visited an object in space if it entered that object's sphere of influence, which is roughly defined as a volume around an object in space where its gravity is the dominant gravitational force. You could imagine that point as a point where, if you were dropped there, and were relatively stationary compared to the bodies around you, you'd fall towards the body whose gravity influenced you the most. So you'd be in that body's sphere of influence. So, did Artemis 2 enter the moon's sphere of influence? Yes, they did for sure. It's needed to make such a tight U-turn back to Earth. But sphere of influence is a rather vague definition, because the moon is completely within the Earth's sphere of influence, for instance. Yet it has its own smaller sphere of influence. Were they visiting Earth at the same time they were visiting the moon? All the planets in the solar system are completely within the sun's sphere of influence. But where would you have to go to say you visited the sun? So the term doesn't actually tell you much about the proximity to the object, and is also dependent on other objects around it. For instance, even though Jupiter's moon Io is about the same size as Earth's moon, and has a similar orbital radius, its sphere of influence is smaller than the moon due to Jupiter's much stronger gravity. So Artemis 2 didn't go to the moon because it wasn't stopping there. It didn't travel to the moon because it was just passing by, but it did visit the moon because it entered its sphere of influence, and it did make the journey to the moon because it had to travel out there to enter the moon's sphere of influence. So did the Artemis 2 astronauts actually go to the moon? Yes, no, maybe? Thank you for watching. If you like this video and other topics ranging from theology to science, please press the like button. Subscribe to my channel and ding the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Also, please support me on Patreon to get extra content and special perks. Link in the description. The more people support me, the more time I can dedicate to making videos like this one. So, until next time, have a great week.